In London, a brilliant day, a brilliant pageant. 1 million expressions of affection for a prince and his bride. The royal wedding, with all its humanity, all its trappings, waves of emotion, waves of warmth. Tonight, a picture report.
From CBS News in London, this is the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather and Bob Schieffer in our newsroom in New York.
Good evening. With heavy Democratic support, President Reagan won his tax cut fight with the House of Representatives today. Earlier this afternoon, as expected, the Senate also gave its support. We'll have more on that in a moment, but now let's go back to Dan in London.
The Archbishop of Canterbury called the wedding of Prince Charles and Lady Diana Spencer today the stuff of fairy tales. And in spite of Scotland Yard's most elaborate security measures ever, there was a once-upon-a-time atmosphere in London as the 32-year-old heir to the British throne married the 20-year-old former kindergarten teacher who was virtually unknown until this year. It was a sun-speckled day for millions of onlookers and for the man who would be the 43rd monarch of his land since the Norman conquest in 1066. As well as for the young woman who traces her ancestry back to the 15th century. Royal occasions come alive with the appearance of the Queen, and so it was this morning as Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip departed Buckingham Palace, an armed guard replacing one of the footmen. Looking somewhat tense, the bridegroom traveled to the church with his brother and wedding supporter, Prince Andrew. Lady Diana, in perhaps the day's first heart-stopping moment, appeared radiant with her father, the Earl Spencer. And like a photograph from a pageant, the royal family gathered for this first marriage of a Prince of Wales since 1863. If this was splendid, it was also human. In the words of a former Archbishop of Canterbury, the essence of the ceremony was exactly the same as it would be for any cottager who might be married. Today, the Very Reverend Alan Webster, Dean of the Cathedral, assisted the Archbishop of Canterbury, Dr. Robert Runcie, in performing the service.
I, Charles Philip Arthur George.
I, Charles Philip Arthur George.
Take thee, Diana Frances.
Take thee, Diana Frances.
To my wedded wife.
To my wedded wife.
To have and to hold from this day forward.
To have and to hold from this day forward.
For better, for worse.
For better, for worse.
For richer, for poorer.
For richer, for poorer.
In sickness and in health.
In sickness and in health.
To love and to cherish.
To love and to cherish.
Till death us do part.
Till death us do part.
I, Diana Frances.
I, Diana Frances.
Take thee, Charles Philip Arthur George.
Take thee, Philip Charles Arthur George.
To my wedded husband.
To my wedded husband.
To have and to hold.
To have and to hold.
From this day forward.
From this day forward.
For better, for worse.
For better, for worse.
For richer, for poorer.
For richer, for poorer.
In sickness and in health.
In sickness and in health.
To love and to cherish.
To love and to cherish.
Till death us do part.
Till death us do part.
There were only a couple of slips. Lady Diana reversed the order of Charles's first two names, and the prince dropped a word. Prince Charles said he wanted the wedding to be a marvelous musical and emotional experience, and the service included hymns chosen by the bride and groom. The New Zealand soprano, Kiri Te Kanawa, sang Handel's Let the Bright Seraphim as the couple signed the register. And little more than an hour after Charles arrived at the church, the ceremony was over. And Charles and Lady Diana, now man and wife, appeared before the tumultuous crowd outside St. Paul's as the Prince and Princess of Wales. They appeared elated as they rode through jubilant crowds, heading home, heading toward Buckingham Palace, where Tom Fenton watched today's events and where he picks up our story.
This was the final act of a spectacle that may never again be seen in this century, if ever. The huge crowd was led by a line of London bobbies up to the gates of the palace for the balcony appearance that traditionally closes Britain's great royal events. The crowd called for Prince Charles. The prince peeked out and then appeared with his bride. For a princess who a few days ago was reduced to tears by the attentions of cameramen, it must have been an experience that will take some getting used to. There was a second appearance, and then the crowd demanded the Queen. The Queen responded. Prince Charles and Princess Diana seemed to be drawn together by the affection of the crowd. Wanting still more, the crowd demanded the Queen Mother. She hesitated, but only for a moment. She was followed by the rest of the family. Bridesmaid Clementine Hambro, great-great-granddaughter of Winston Churchill, sucked her thumb at the sight of hundreds of thousands of deliriously happy well-wishers. The prince and princess kissed. Later in the afternoon, the royal newlyweds departed for their honeymoon in a carriage that was pelted with rose petals, decorated with balloons, and for good measure, fitted out with a sign that said what everybody already knew. By train, they set off on a short journey to Broadlands, the estate of the prince's late great-uncle, Lord Mountbatten. There, they will spend the first 2 days of their honeymoon in the same house where the Queen and Prince Philip began their married life 34 years ago. Tom Fenton, CBS News, London.
We'll have more from London later in this broadcast.